Are you sleeping with her? No. Do you love her? Do you? Yes. Say it again? I'm not gonna fight you in a dinner.
The spoon struck the floor before Evan Wexler reached the table. A waiter bent for it. Nobody else moved. Grant Wexler still had his hand over Claire Rowan's. Evan stopped 3 feet from the booth, late afternoon daylight spilling through the tall windows and catching the water on his coat. He had come through the revolving door expecting to spend 20 minutes with a structural engineer who was already texting apologies about traffic. Instead, he had seen his father through the narrow brass partitions at the back of the dining room. Then Claire. Then their hands. Not touching by accident. Not reaching for the same bread plate. Held. Grant removed his hand first. Claire looked toward the window. Evan? His father said his name the way he said it in board meetings when Evan had interrupted someone too senior. Evan looked down at the table. 2 wine glasses. 1 bottle. Claire's phone face down beside her napkin. A small white gift box sat near Grant's elbow. What is this? Claire reached for her glass, changed her mind, and folded her hands beneath the table. Grant leaned back. A dinner. I can see that. Then we have established something. Dad. Several heads had turned. Grant noticed them. Evan noticed Grant noticing them. That was the difference between them. Evan could still enter a room and forget there were other people in it. Grant never forgot. Claire pushed the gift box toward the center of the table. Could we not do this here? Evan stared at her. You told me you were with Natalie. I said I had plans. You said Natalie. I said I might see Natalie afterward. No, you said Evan. Grant's voice remained quiet. Evan looked at his father's hand. There was a faint crescent from Claire's thumbnail near the base of his thumb. He pointed at it. You were holding hands. Grant glanced down as if Evan had indicated a stain. She was upset. Claire's face changed. Don't. Grant looked at her. Evan laughed once. It came out louder than he intended. What was she upset about? Claire stood. The tablecloth caught against her coat button and dragged a fork toward the edge. She stopped it with 2 fingers. Not this. What exactly? Being interrogated in a restaurant. I'm interrogating you because I walked in and found my father holding your hand. Grant reached for the wine bottle. Lower your voice. Evan slapped Grant's hand away from it. A small sound moved through the room, not a gasp. People did not gasp in restaurants like Bellamy House. They became interested in their menus. Grant stared at him. Claire stepped between the table and Evan. Nothing is happening. Nothing? No. He nodded toward the box. What's that? Claire did not answer. Grant did. A watch? For her? For me? Evan looked at him. Grant took the box, opened it, and removed an old stainless steel watch with a brown leather strap. Evan recognized it immediately. His grandfather had worn it in photographs from before Grant had money, before the towers and airports and magazines. The leather strap had been replaced. Claire found someone who could restore it. Claire picked up her handbag. Your father asked me about a conservator. I know one. At dinner. The man has been dead 21 years, Grant said. I thought the watch could survive 1 meal. Evan looked again at Claire. And the hand? She pulled the strap of her bag over her shoulder. I'm going home. Our home? She stared at him. Grant's expression tightened almost invisibly. Evan saw that too. He had spent 31 years learning his father's face. Grant disliked public emotion, overcooked fish, and anyone who said, to be honest, before a sentence. His anger usually appeared as better posture. Now his back had become perfectly straight. Claire walked away. Evan started after her. Grant caught his wrist. Don't. Evan turned. His father released him immediately. For half a second neither spoke. Then Evan said, How long? Grant picked up his napkin and placed it beside his plate. There is nothing to tell you. You're lying. You are making a scene based on something you think you saw. I saw your hand. You saw a hand. My girlfriend's. Grant looked toward the restaurant entrance where Claire had disappeared. Then he looked back at his son. Yes, he said. That part appears to be the problem.
Before we dive into the story, if you love great and interesting stories, give a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.
Evan followed Claire to the curb. The late afternoon rain left the avenue shining beneath the pale daylight. Taxis pulled through the busy intersection, tires hissing over rain-darkened pavement. She stood beneath the awning, tapping at her phone. Claire? She kept typing. Claire, my car is coming. Cancel it. No, I'll drive. I don't want to be in a car with you. Because I caught you. Her thumb stopped. Because you say things like that. A black sedan stopped at the curb. Evan caught the rear door before the driver could open it. Tell me what's going on. I did. You were holding his hand. Yes. Why? Her eyes moved past him toward the restaurant. He asked me something. What? It's private. Evan laughed. With my father? Yes. What does my father need to ask you that I can't hear? Claire stepped closer. He wanted to know why you hate him. The traffic seemed to get louder. Evan loosened his grip on the door. What? He thinks you do. Did you tell him? I told him to ask you. And then you held his hand? No, he held mine. That distinction made Evan angrier than if she had denied it. She got into the car. He bent toward the open door. You lied about where you were. Claire looked at him for several seconds. Yes. Why? Because if I had said, your father invited me to dinner, would you have said, okay? No. Exactly. The door closed. For 4 days, Evan did not ask about the restaurant. That frightened Claire more than another argument would have. He cooked pasta on Sunday and forgot the salt. He changed a bulb of the stove. He worked late Monday. Tuesday morning, he took her car to the garage because the left rear tire kept losing pressure. Ordinary things. At night, he lay beside her with his phone on his chest until the screen went dark. On Wednesday, Claire came out of the shower and found him holding hers. He was not reading a message. There were no messages open. He was looking at the call history. She stopped in the doorway. Evan slowly set the phone on the bed. You called my father last Friday. Claire tightened the belt of her robe. He called me. 7 minutes. Yes. About? The watch. The watch was already repaired. He thanked me. For 7 minutes? She walked to the dresser and opened a drawer. Evan watched her remove a pair of socks, then return them. You deleted his text. There weren't any. There are always text. Apparently not always. He picked up the phone again. What name is he under? Claire turned. What? If you're hiding him under another contact, what name? She stared at him for a moment. Then she crossed the room, took the phone from his hand and changed the passcode. Evan watched her do it. Are you serious? Yes. That makes you look guilty. No, Evan, it makes my phone mine. She dressed without speaking to him. At the bedroom door, she stopped. You want to know what your father asked me at dinner? Evan said nothing. He asked whether you ever do this. Do what? Inspect people. Then she left. By the following week, Evan knew the name of the driver Claire used most often, the garage where her car was serviced, and which entrance Grant usually used at Wexler Group headquarters. He told himself these were facts, not surveillance. Facts were neutral. That Saturday, he slipped a silver tracking tag beneath the felt lining of Claire's spare tire compartment. He hated himself for approximately 11 seconds. Then he closed the trunk. The first 2 days produced nothing. Home, studio, grocery store, her sister's apartment in Brooklyn, a cafe near Washington Square. On Tuesday afternoon, the dot moved north and stopped for 43 minutes outside Wexler headquarters. Evan was on the 36th floor when the notification appeared. He left a meeting without explanation. Grant's office occupied the southeast corner of 41. Evan took the stairs for the last 3 floors. Grant's assistant was not at her desk. The office door stood open. Evan walked in. His father sat behind the desk alone, reading a construction report. He looked up. If the building is on fire, use the alarm. Where is she? Grant returned to the page. Who? Claire. Grant drew a line beneath, a figure with a pencil. You're going to have to become less theatrical if you want people to take you seriously. Her car is downstairs. Grant's pencil stopped. There it was. Not fear. Calculation. Evan walked to the window and looked toward the avenue 40 floors below. Where is she? Grant closed the report. How do you know her car is downstairs? Evan turned. Grant waited. That was another thing he did better. He could leave an unanswered question in the room until someone else became uncomfortable enough to fill it. Evan didn't. His father stood. "Come with me." They took the elevator to the basement. Claire's car sat near the service entrance. The driver's door was open. A mechanic in grey coveralls knelt beside the rear tire. Claire was nowhere in sight. Grant pointed. "Your building pass told security you came down here 6 minutes after Claire's car entered the garage." Evan looked at him. "You knew?" "I wondered." Grant reached into the trunk. His fingers went beneath the felt. They came out holding the silver tracker. Evan said nothing. Grant rolled it once across his palm. "You put this in her car?" "Give it to me." "Did you? You don't get to question me about her." Grant placed the tracker on the roof of the car. "No. Apparently you have claimed that position." Evan snatched it. "Why is her car here?" "She asked our fleet manager to look at the tire because your garage failed to find the leak." Evan looked at the mechanic. A nail lay on the concrete beside him. Grant walked toward the elevator. Halfway there, he stopped. "Take it out of the car." Evan said, "You're enjoying this." Grant turned. For the first time, his face was no longer controlled. He looked tired. "No," he said, "I'm recognizing it." Then he left. Claire found the tracker that evening. Not because Evan confessed. Grant had told her. She placed it on the kitchen island between them. "Say something." Evan looked at the tiny disk. "You changed your password. So you tracked my car. You lied to me. One dinner. With him. Yes. You keep saying that like it makes it smaller." She took a glass from the cupboard. Her hand shook enough that the rim clicked against the shelf. "I don't know how to prove something didn't happen. Start with the truth." "I have." "No, you've given me pieces." Claire filled the glass. "Fine." She drank half of it. "Your father called me because he wanted help repairing the watch. We had coffee. Then he asked about you. I told him it wasn't my place. He invited me to dinner. I knew you would make it into this, so I lied." "You knew because there was something to make." She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they were on the tracker. "Do you know what you're doing? Trying not to look stupid. You think that's the worst thing that can happen to you. What does that mean?" "It means you would rather become someone I'm afraid of than be the last person to know something." Evan pushed the tracker across the counter. "Are you sleeping with him?" "No." "Do you want to?" She did not answer quickly enough. That was the moment, not the restaurant, not the hand. That pause. Evan stepped away from the island. Claire said his name. He went into the bedroom and shut the door. She slept in the guest room. 2 weeks later, she moved out.
Before we continue with the story, if you love great and interesting stories like this, give a like to the video, hit the subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Stick around till the very end and let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in that situation?
There was no dramatic packing scene. Claire owned fewer things than Evan had realized. 3 suitcases, 2 garment bags, a box of books. She left the expensive espresso machine because she said she had never understood the buttons. Evan stood in the doorway while she carried a plant toward the elevator. "Is this because of him?" She placed the plant on top of a suitcase. "This is because I don't want to live like this." "With me." "Yes." "You still haven't answered." Claire pressed the elevator button. "About your father?" "Yes." The doors opened. She pushed the suitcase inside. "No," she said. Then she looked at him. "But I've thought about why you keep asking." The doors closed before he could answer. For nearly a month, Grant did not mention her, neither did Evan. They saw each other at work, sat across conference tables, argued over a Baltimore redevelopment schedule, flew together to Dallas for a financing meeting and discussed only interest rates, steel costs, and whether the hotel had changed its coffee supplier. Grant wore the restored watch every day. Evan began hating it. The leather was a shade lighter than the original strap. Once, during a meeting, Grant caught him looking at it. He pulled his cuff over it. Evan noticed that too. Then Claire disappeared from the places he knew to look. Her design studio said she was working remotely. Her social accounts went quiet. Her apartment concierge said she had not collected mail in over a week. Evan did not ask Grant. He hired someone instead. The investigator's name was Miles Keene, a former insurance fraud examiner with unremarkable glasses and a habit of eating peppermint candies. Evan gave him one instruction. I want to know whether they're seeing each other. Keane unwrapped a candy. Seeing how? You know what I mean. I like clients to say what they mean. Evan looked at him. Are they having an affair? She's your wife. Girlfriend? Current? Evan hesitated. Recently. And the man? My father. Keena put the candy in his mouth. That explains the price. 3 days later, Grant asked Evan to lunch. Not at Bellamy House, a diner near the Queensborough Bridge where the coffee came in thick white mugs and the ketchup bottle had dried red around the cap. Grant had eaten there when Wexler Group consisted of 6 employees and 1 rented office. Evan arrived 10 minutes late on purpose. His father was peeling the paper label from a packet of sugar. You still doing that? Grant looked at the small torn strip between his fingers. Apparently. Evan sat. What do you want? To eat. You could do that without me. I often do. A waitress poured coffee. Grant waited until she walked away. Then he said, Claire and I have been speaking. Evan's hand stopped around the mug. At least you're admitting it. I wasn't hiding it. Really? Yes. Where is she? Grant looked out the window. A cement truck rattled through the intersection. Why? Evan laughed softly. That's your answer. It's a question. Because you stole my girlfriend. Grant looked back at him. You think people can be stolen because you think people can belong to you. Don't do that. Do what? Turn this into one of your lessons. I'm not teaching you anything. You took her to dinner behind my back. Yes. You lied. Yes. You've been seeing her. Yes. The direct answers unsettled Evan more than denial had. He leaned forward. Are you sleeping with her? Grant folded the sugar wrapper in half. No. Do you love her? His father's fingers stopped. The waitress returned with 2 plates. Neither of them had ordered yet. Grant had ordered before Evan arrived. Of course he had. Evan looked at the eggs in front of him. Do you? Grant picked up his fork. Yes. Evan struck him. The diner went quiet. Grant's head turned with the blow. A small cut appeared inside his lower lip. He touched it with his tongue. Evan stood over him. Say it again. Grant took his napkin and pressed it to his mouth. I'm not going to fight you in a diner. You're sleeping with her. I told you I'm not. You expect me to believe that? No. Grant dropped the napkin onto the plate. A spot of blood spread into the yellow egg yolk. I stopped expecting you to believe anything that frightens you. Evan grabbed his coat and walked out. Keane called that night. I have something. They met in a hotel lobby in Midtown. Keane slid an envelope across the table. Inside were photographs. Grant leaving Claire's building. Claire entering a bookstore near Union Square. Grant's car outside the same bookstore 40 minutes later. Claire boarding a Wexler Group aircraft at Teterboro. Evan stopped. When? Yesterday. Where did it go? Boston. My father had meetings in Boston. She flew back commercial. Evan turned to another photograph. Claire stood outside Massachusetts General Hospital. Beside her was Grant. His father held a paper bag. Claire had one hand over her mouth. Evan looked at Keane. What is this? I don't know. Find out. Keane leaned back. There's another thing. He placed a receipt on the table. A jeweler on Newbury Street. Grant had bought 2 rings. Evan stared at the receipt. Wedding rings? The store wouldn't tell me. They're wedding rings. Keane removed his glasses and cleaned them with the edge of his shirt. You asked whether they were having an affair. And? I haven't found one. Evan looked up. Keane put his glasses back on. I've found a relationship. That's different. The hospital trip had nothing to do with illness. Claire's father's pocket watch, the one Grant wore, had originally been restored by a horologist in Boston, who was now dying and closing his shop. Grant had taken Claire to buy the craftsman's remaining tools for a preservation program she wanted to create. The explanation arrived from Grant himself. He called at 7 the next morning. You hired a man to follow us. Evan sat up in bed. How do you know? Because he asked a jeweler for a copy of my receipt using an expired insurance investigator credential. Evan closed his eyes. Grant continued. You should ask for your money back. The rings are in silence. What rings? You bought 2. Grant did not answer. Evan stood. Dad, They aren't your concern. Evan laughed. Who are you marrying? Another silence. Then Grant sighed. I have a meeting. The line went dead. Evan drove to Claire's apartment.
Before we continue with the story, if you love great and interesting stories like this, give a like to the video, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Stick around till the very end and let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in that situation?
The concierge did not stop him because Evan had been there dozens of times. He took the elevator to 12. The door opened before he knocked. Claire stood there, wearing jeans and one of Evan's old Columbia sweatshirts. For a ridiculous second, that sweatshirt gave him hope. Then he saw the cardboard boxes. You're moving. Claire looked toward the elevator. You shouldn't be here. Are you marrying him? Her face went still. Who told you? Evan stepped into the apartment. So you are. I didn't say that. He bought rings. Evan, are you? She put her hand against the door. Leave. Answer me. You don't get to come into my apartment and demand, are you marrying my father? No. He stared at her. She held his eyes. For the first time in months, he believed her. He walked out. That answer remained technically true for another 11 weeks. During those weeks, Grant became almost boring. He worked. He attended a transportation conference in Atlanta. He argued with Evan about a tunnel project in Virginia. He spent Thanksgiving afternoon at the company's Brooklyn warehouse because a refrigeration system had failed. Claire returned to her studio. Keane found no meetings between them, no dinners, no hotel rooms, no flights. Evan ended the investigation. He told himself the thing had burned itself out. In January, Grant removed him from a major acquisition negotiation. Not from the company, not from the board, just one deal. Evan entered his office without knocking. You think I can't separate work from this? Grant continued signing documents. I think you haven't. So you punish me. I reassigned a negotiation to Michael. He's better at it. I built the financing model and then spent 2 months having private investigators follow your former girlfriend. Evan shut the door. You knew the whole time. Most of it. You were feeding him false roots. Grant looked up. I didn't have to. You kept assuming movement meant evidence. Evan leaned against the desk. Did you stop seeing her because of me? No. Did she stop seeing you? Grant capped his pen. We decided that if anything happened between us, it would not begin while you were still watching. Evan stared at him. His father stood. I am sorry. For what? Many things. That's convenient. Yes. Are you still in love with her? Grant picked up his coat. Yes. Does she love you? Grant walked around the desk. Ask Claire. Evan blocked the door. You stay away from her. Grant looked at him. Evan heard the sentence after it had already left his mouth. His father's expression changed. Not anger, something closer to sadness. She left you, Evan. I know that. I don't think you do. Grant opened the door and walked around him. By spring, nothing happened. That was what finally convinced Evan it was over. Claire rented a new studio in Tribeca. Grant spent 6 weeks in Europe negotiating the purchase of a Portuguese infrastructure firm. Evan took over more daily operations in New York. For the first time in years, he could enter a senior meeting without checking whether his father was already seated at the end of the table. He slept better. He stopped opening Claire's social pages. He deleted Keane's number. Then, on a Thursday morning in May, the chief financial officer placed a stack of documents on Evan's desk. Your father executed these before Lisbon. Evan flipped through them. Voting proxies, travel authorizations, a temporary delegation of operating authority. Nothing unusual. Then a page, near the bottom, caught his attention. Grant Wexler, emergency contact, Claire Wexler. Evan stopped. He read it again. Where did this come from? The CFO leaned over. Travel insurance rider. Evan looked at the date. 3 weeks earlier. His fingers pressed hard enough into the page to wrinkle it. Get me the plane manifest from Lisbon. I don't think. Get it. 10 minutes later, Evan was staring at 2 passenger names. Grant Wexler. Claire Wexler. His father's phone went directly to voicemail. Claire's did too. Evan called Keane. The investigator answered on the 4th ring. I thought we were finished. Find a marriage license. There was a pause. Where? Everywhere. Keen sighed, and that narrows it down. Start with Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, Portugal, anywhere my father has property. You understand marriage records don't all work the same way. Find it. Keen called back 6 hours later. Not Massachusetts, not New York, Rhode Island. A private civil ceremony in Newport 12 days earlier. Grant Wexler and Clara Elise Rowan. 8 witnesses listed, most of them staff. No press, no announcement, no reception. Evans sat alone in his father's office until the building lights across Park Avenue began switching on. On Grant's desk lay the repaired watch box. Empty. Under it was an envelope. Evans' name was written on the front in his father's handwriting. He opened it. Inside were 3 documents. The first was a copy of the prenuptial agreement. Claire had waived any claim to Grant's company shares. She had waived inheritance rights beyond a fixed property settlement. She would receive no board seat, no voting control, no automatic interest in the Wexler family trust. The second document transferred a large block of Grant's personal shares into an independent foundation. The third was a resignation letter. Grant was stepping down as chief executive at the end of the quarter. The board would appoint an outside successor. Not Evan. At the bottom of the envelope was a small folded note. Evan opened it. You will want to make this about money because money is a language we taught you too well. There was nothing else. Evan tore the note in half, then quarters, then smaller pieces until they covered the desk. He called Grant again. Voicemail. He called Claire. Voicemail. He opened the company flight system. Access denied. He tried the family office portal. Access denied. Grant had changed the permissions. 2 steps ahead. Maybe 3. Evan laughed. There was nobody there to hear it. For the next 48 hours, he did what he had always done when his father closed a door. He looked for another entrance. He found one. Grant's resignation created a vulnerability in a pending $3.08 billion port acquisition. Financing documents still required board ratification, and even controlled Enosh proxy voters from a family trust established by his grandfather to delay approval. Delay would be expensive, publicly embarrassing, potentially fatal to the deal. Grant had spent 11 months assembling it. Evan could destroy it with one email. He drafted the message at 2:14 in the morning. At 2:31, he attached internal projections showing the cost of delay. At 2:46, he added a demand. Grant and Claire would return to New York and meet him in person before he released his votes. He read it twice, then sent it only to Grant. His father replied 6 minutes later. No. Evans stared at the screen. He typed, "Then the acquisition dies." Grant's response arrived almost immediately. "That is your decision. No plea, no argument, no explanation." Evan picked up a coffee mug and threw it across the office. It struck the wall and broke. He stood among the pieces. Then his phone rang. Claire. He answered. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally, she said, "You're going to hurt a lot of people who have nothing to do with us." "You married my father." "Yes." "You lied to me." "Yes." "You said no." "When you asked, the answer was no." 12 weeks later, you married him." "Yes." His hand tightened around the phone. "Do you love him?" Claire was quiet. He almost laughed, that old pause, the one that had started everything. Then she said, "Yes." Evan sat down. "You could have told me." "I should have." "Why didn't you?" "Because I was afraid of you." The words were plain. No speech around them. Evan looked at the broken mug on the carpet. "Of me." "Yes." "I never touched you." "No." "I never threatened you." "No." "So what were you afraid of?" "That you would use everything you had access to until there was nowhere I could go without you knowing." Evan said nothing. Claire continued. "You had already put a tracker in my car. That was before you left. I know. You were lying to me. I know." They sat with that. 2 true things occupying the same space. Finally, Evan said, "Did he plan this?" "What?" "All of it. The restaurant, the watch, you leaving me." "No." "Did he want you before that dinner?" Another pause. "I think so." "And you?" "I didn't know." "You expect me to believe that?" No. There was a faint sound on her end. Wind, perhaps. Evan pictured Lisbon because he had nowhere else to put her. Claire said, "Grant told me not to call you." Of course he did. He said you'd make the acquisition the battlefield. Evan looked at the email on his screen. That what he thinks? He knows you. Apparently everybody does. She inhaled. Evan, I'm not asking you to forgive me. Good. I'm asking you not to punish 6,000 employees because we hurt you. He ended the call. The board meeting began at 9 the next morning. Evan arrived carrying the proxy packet. Grant's chair was empty. The outside directors spoke carefully around the subject of his resignation. Nobody mentioned Claire. Nobody needed to. The acquisition vote came last. 11 directors approved, 1 abstained. Then it reached Evan. The room waited. He could see his father in small pieces everywhere. The water glass positioned exactly above the knife. The folders aligned with the table edge. The silence that made other people speak too soon. Evan looked down at the proxy document. His grandfather's trust gave him enough votes to stop the transaction. He thought about Grant receiving the call in Lisbon, about Claire standing beside him, about making them come back, about forcing his father, for once, to ask. Then he looked through the glass wall toward the operations floor. People were walking between desks carrying coffee, arguing over spreadsheets, laughing beside a printer that jammed every third day. Most of them would never know why a port deal had failed. They would only know Banuzzi's disappeared, projects were cancelled, teams were cut. The anger stayed. It did not become noble. It did not vanish, because strangers might pay for it. Evan picked up his pen. For several seconds he held it above the page. Then he signed approval. The acquisition passed. He left before anyone could shake his hand. Grant returned to New York in September. Alone. Evan learned this because his father appeared at headquarters on a Wednesday carrying a cardboard box. No announcement, no security procession, just a 51-year-old man clearing an office he had occupied for 19 years. Evan watched from the doorway. Grant placed books into the box, a framed photograph of the first Wexler warehouse, 2 architectural models. The old watch was on his wrist. "Where is she?" Grant did not turn. "Providence." "Why?" "She's opening a preservation workshop." Evan nodded. "So you didn't disappear forever?" "No." "You could have called." "Yes." Grant wrapped a glass award in newspaper. Evan stepped into the room. "I approved the port deal." "I know. You knew I would." Grant looked at him. "No." It was the first answer Evan had not expected. Grant placed the award into the box. "I thought you might destroy it." "You had a backup?" "For the financing, yes." "Of course. It would have been worse. For me? For everyone." Evan looked toward the empty shelves. "You were always ahead." Grant shook his head. "That is something you tell yourself because it hurts less than admitting you kept choosing the most predictable thing." Evan stared at him. "You married her?" "Yes. My girlfriend." "Former girlfriend." "Don't." Grant lowered his eyes. Sorry. "You're not?" "No, not for marrying her." Evan laughed without humor. "At least we finally found something you won't apologize for." Grant closed the cardboard box. "I am sorry for beginning anything before you had time to understand that your relationship was over. I am sorry for the restaurant. I am sorry for hiding the wedding. But not for taking her." Grant lifted the box. "You're still using that word." Evan moved aside so he could pass. Grant stopped beside him. For a moment, they stood close enough that Evan could smell the same cedar aftershave his father had worn since Evan was a child. "You know what the worst part is?" Evan asked. Grant waited. "I don't know which one of you betrayed me first." His father looked down at the watch, then back at him. "Neither do I." That answer did more damage than a lie. Grant walked toward the door. Evan said, "Did you ever think about what this would do to us?" Grant stopped. "Yes." "And?" "I married her anyway. No defense followed, no lesson, no request for understanding." Grant carried the box out. Months passed. Evan kept his job but moved out of the office, adjoining his father's old suite. He took a smaller one 2 floors down. He began dating no one. Not from bitterness, he told himself, then stopped explaining it. Claire sent one email in December. No apology, no photograph, just a notice that a box of Evan's books had been found among hers and asking where they should be sent. He replied with an address, nothing else. On a cold evening in February, Evan walked past Bellamy House after a meeting. He almost continued. Instead, he went inside. The maitre d' recognized him and offered the usual corner booth. Evan looked toward it. A different couple sat there. Young. The man was speaking too quickly. The woman had both hands around her wine glass and was trying not to smile. No, Evan said. Somewhere else. He was seated near the window. He ordered dinner. When the waiter brought coffee afterward, a small silver spoon rested on the saucer. Evan picked it up. For a moment, he remembered another spoon striking the floor. His father's hand over Claire's, the white watch box between them. All those seconds before his life had divided into what he knew and what he only suspected. His phone vibrated. A message from Grant. Dinner next week? Evan read it. The typing field waited beneath the question. For months he had imagined what he would say if his father came back asking for something. He had imagined silence, cruelty, a sentence polished enough to wound. Instead, he placed the phone face down beside his plate. The waiter passed. Evan stopped him. Excuse me. Yes, sir. He held out the spoon. This one's bent. The waiter inspected it. I can replace it. Evan looked at the shallow curve in the handle, then at his phone. No, he said. Leave it. The waiter nodded and walked away. Evan finished his coffee before turning the phone over again.
Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want more like it, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next video.